challenges that our police officers are facing on a daily basis. me get grounded a little bit in the facts as well, because I talked about, there's an appearance of an increase in quality of life complaints, and it's not just an appearance. If you felt that perception, it's also backed by the data. And so here you see from some of those quality of life complaints I was talking about, like loitering and vagrancy, retail theft, drug-related crimes, disorderly conduct, just general disturbances, overdoses, and alcohol-related offenses. So the blue bar shows you the 3-year average for the prior 3 years, and the gold bar shows you the 2024 numbers. And across the board, there are increases in these complaints. So this isn't just perception. This is backed up by the data of our police department. We are seeing other really concerning trends as well in our enforcement. We are having much more repeated contact with the same individuals. This is pretty stark in my opinion. These bars represent the 8 individuals with the highest contacts with our police department. Those 8 individuals accounted for 367 contacts with our police department. So on any given day last year, our police department had contact with one of these 8 individuals. Just another flag here, you can see in that yellow box, one of these individuals had 7 police contacts occur since December 31st, 2024. The chief gave me this data on January 10th. In 10 days, there were 7 contacts with this one individual. And perhaps most troubling, in our eyes, is that only one of these individuals is currently lodged by law enforcement. So the other 7 are not under any sort of enforcement action at this moment.
Can we let the people in that are on the
Yes, I will. The bottom line across here is I just admitted also this should be good. The bottom line that you see across the screen, at the bottom of the screen is the number of arrests of those individuals as well. There we go. And it's not just the police department that's facing. I see some of our firefighters in the audience as well. There's also been an increase on the EMS side as well, our EMS calls. This is data from September through December last year to this year. You can see again that there are just increases across the board. In fact, the increase through these months for the fire department from last year to this year was 12.2%. So our response, we talked about this at the city council this fall. The staff level goal when we were figuring out how to try to address this issue was to both show empathy for the people who are in need of medical attention and need wraparound supports, but also recognize that there are 8,000 other people who live here who did not feel safe in many occasions frequenting our public spaces and sharing our public spaces. And our response needed to be responsive to those people as well. So this fall what we did is we increased our police department foot patrols. It was this summer and this fall. And we had some dedicated overtime shifts to just focus on these quality of life enforcement issues. These were great. These were well received. I heard from many residents and merchants who saw our officers downtown. They're not sustainable. Number one, these are voluntary overtime shifts, so we can't force place them. Number two, our police department is understaffed. We were 5 positions short for most of the year. We've had some luck recently with recruitment, but it is staffing-wise not really possible to keep up that level of staffing in our downtown. So you may have read that one of the things that the police chief and I have been following very closely is a similar conversation happened in Brattleboro, and their select board earlier this year passed acceptable public conduct ordinance. That ordinance has since been overturned by a representative special town meeting, but it's something that the police chief and I looked at and thought this is an innovative way to perhaps confront this issue. We know that we as Berry City cannot solve this issue by ourselves. That's why we've invited the state's attorney and our representatives because it's not just something that the city can solve, but this was something that a fellow community been watched perhaps, and they have some bills in their, handbook, pocketbook, wallet, whatever, right? And so there's a reason to understand that that person may feel threatened, right? If somebody comes to ask them for money, the person presumably may know that they do have money, even if if the person who's at the ATM says no, right? So that's just one example of what an ordinance like this would do. It also establishes similar boundaries around other public spaces where there are vulnerable populations that may congregate. It establishes, in Brattleboro, they established prohibited behaviors. I'm not going to read these all. This presentation is on our website. I'll just give a couple of examples. So the Class A would be the highest rank, the most serious, and that's things like possession, use of drugs, sexual or lewd behavior. Class B is the sort of the in-between, and that's an example. Here's abusive or profane or threatening language. Class C is something more minor, maybe perhaps not following the instructions of a city official, a city police officer to move on, something to that effect. So the feedback we're looking for tonight really is to share your experiences, your concerns with these rising quality of life complaints. We'd love to hear your suggestions about how you think we should be addressing them, both at the city and our state partners as well. You can choose to provide feedback on the accessible conduct ordinance or not. That's not the sole reason for this forum. This forum is to generally talk about public safety in general. But if you do wish to provide feedback on that, we'd love to hear that as well. A couple of just reminders here. The forum will conclude promptly at 7. I'm going to limit speakers to 2 minutes. There's a lot of people who may want to speak, so I'm going to be very strict about the 2 minutes of speaking time. And if there happens to be time when we're at the end of the forum, if people want to go for a second round, we will only do so after everyone wants a chance to speak has had a chance to speak. So that's it for the presentation. And I'm going to turn over, before I hand it over and start calling on people, I'm going to let the state's attorney speak if she would like to. And then just the final logistical point is so that people on the Zoom can hear, set up a speaker's table down here with a microphone. So I will ask so that people online can hear you and so that the recording can capture the event properly, that if you do have to make your way to the chair. So
And before you do, Nicholas, just for one brief moment, free chairs, by the way, up front here, in case anyone would like one. And folks, if you do want to just take 30 seconds, and those who are standing, if you want a seat, there's 2 or 3 right here, a couple more in the front row. So help yourself. Thank you.
Nicholas, I don't think the mic is working at
It's
all.
not.
Yeah, I think the mic's supposed to really
mic is
on
only
the
for
online
looks.
line.
Oh,
Yeah.
so there isn't anything for the one, okay.
Yeah, other than loud and project.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
people are hearing.
I'm sorry.
So, Michelle, it's floor is yours if you'd like it.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Michelle Foley. I'm the state's attorney in Washington County, and I'm also a Berry City resident. I live here. I have 2 kids who go to the Berry City.
Thank you both. And what I'll do is, if people, I'll recognize people raise their hand, I'll invite them to the table, Lisa. And for the folks who are watching online, if you use your raise your hand feature, I will try to alternate between the room and the Zoom based on where the participation is. So thank you, sir. Please, 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Casey Harrington, the owner of Beverage Fair in Gary. So, as far as no trespass orders, we have a problem with somebody, typically we call the police, serve them no trespass, no problem.
We haven't changed our policy. You can still get trespass orders.
Yeah.
One of the things we are working on though is a trespass notice is a civil process. And when the officers go and they go to a complaint and the individual's right there, they have the ability to issue that trespass notice right there.
Yeah.
If you know who the individual is, you also have the opportunity to either certify mail or hand them a trespass notice. A lot of the times we're getting instances from business owners like yourself that say, hey, there's an individual that looks like this that walked away.
Right.
And the officers do the best that they can to try to find those people, but they can't always find those people. So we only ask that when those instances occur, you have that ability as well.
Right. Kind of our company policy is, I don't want any of my employees confronting somebody like that. So I wouldn't want that risk of us serving. If somebody harassed one of my employees, threatening, I wouldn't want them to have to do a trespass order. The cushion I'm looking for is the police department to be that.
Like I said, when the officers show up and the individual's there, that's not a problem. What causes the problem is when you don't know who it is and you expect us to serve a notice of trespass, we don't know who it is
Right.
unless we do.
Yeah, so if we know who it is and give you the details, you'll continue to serve the orders.
At this time.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, sir. 2 minutes, right on the money. Perfect. Yes, please. Go. Do we have anybody on deck? Who wants to be on deck?
Hi, my name is Chris Hayden. I've lived here in Barry in the same house since 2016. I think most importantly, and I mean this for you, sir, the firefighters, the police officers, like he said, and I think there's a ton of us here that know that a lot of this problem is you guys. And your hands are your hands are tied a little bit with what you have to work with. A lot of us do appreciate what you guys are trying to do with such short hands. My concern is, if I look at simple data, I can look at the population of Barry being about 8,500 people. Population of Burlington being about 44,500. And 44,500. There's 49 sex offenders that are registered here in Barry, and there's 69 that are registered in Burlington. I think that's Burlington, simple math, 5 times bigger than Barry, and we're almost competing with them in just sex offender registry type stuff. So I have to believe the other crime data is even more. Why is that? And I know that's not even, sorry Keith, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's not that's more you guys, like why is that a thing?
Demographically?
No, I know what demographics are. I mean, I just, how come there's 49, if we, give or take, right, I know these numbers are a year old by now, but there's 49 sex offenders in Barry alone.
Yep.
And 69 in Burlington, and they're 5 times the size of us. What are we doing here that's either drawing them in or keeping them here?
Well, I don't know that we're doing anything to draw them in or keep them in. If someone is on the registry, generally speaking, they're free to live, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle or Brad, they're free to live wherever they want. If you were to ask me, and I don't have any data, and I'm going to answer your question with what I think, and you could probably prove me wrong by looking at the data. I suspect it's probably the cost of housing when you get right down to it. It's a lot less expensive to live in Barry, to live in Washington County, than it is to live in Chittenden County. But with regard to, folks who are on the registry, it's not like they're being assigned anywhere. I mean, obviously, if some are on probation and they need to, they need to see their probation officer on occasion, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, I suspect where there's a probation office, you'd find them in closer proximity. And I suspect that's the case. And I'm sorry, what was your second question? I think you had a second. Maybe you didn't. Maybe I just thought I heard. But, that in terms of that answer, that's the best I can offer you.
Thank you, that was 2 minutes. Anybody like to speak? I don't see anybody on Zoom. Kat, please.
I'm Kat Allen, and I'm a new business owner on Main Street. And so some of the enter our place of business.
Well, by all means, you can call 911 or you can call us. My officers do an excellent job of responding to those complaints. One of the things, owning a business, you have the ability to trespass them from that business. When it's happening out, like, in public, on a public right of way that they have a right to be at. Again, there's a lot of freedoms that they have.
Sure.
While it's annoying, there's not a lot we can do there. But if they're in your business, you have that right to trespass them. If they commit a crime, you have the right to do that, to file a charge as well. But my officers will respond to those complaints. They do a really good job handling all types of complaints that we do.
That's great. I just needed to know what the process was. Thanks.
Thank you, Kat. We have somebody online, Erica Rail.
No, I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but I find it funny that we're here talking about more public policy to deal with these folks, and Burlington today just opened up a new shelter. And I think it's funny that we, if we have a place for folks to go and open up another shelter, then maybe a lot of these issues would be dealt with. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody in the room? Anybody online? Sir, please. Would anyone like to be on deck so they're ready to go? You can be on deck. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Richardson, and I own Sidewalk Village, my wife and I. And I think that we all know what the problems are, so I won't talk about that. But I would like to maybe talk about solutions that some of our business owners are here tonight as well. And, we've experienced what everybody else has, a lot of aggressive panhandling, folks coming into our building, spending the night when they shouldn't, overdoses in the building. And, I think that the first thing is Merchants Row is just too dark. And if we could light that up, it would make a lot of us feel a little bit better, especially going to your car. A lot of folks in our building just don't even want to leave the building and get to their car because they're approached by folks that they don't see because it's so dark. So that would be one thing. Secondly, I don't know if there's anything that we could do with community cameras, just to have them all around Barry. I mean, I think business owners would be more than happy to chip in if we could. I don't know, the problem with that is I don't know who would monitor that. I don't know what would happen once you capture folks on camera. But I think that maybe just having more of a presence of you're being watched. If you're not able to just sneak into these areas and do these things without being noticed. So that might be another thing.
That's something I would welcome, by the way. Cameras in the community, intersection cameras, I think that would be
Off from that, I'm wondering, that slide was really telling with the habitual folks. What is being done with folks that are just constantly repeating? I mean, it seems like at least in our building, we have folks that, we filed no trespass and they can continue to maybe not even come in the building but harass and aggressive panhandling. Is there any, I know that it's okay for folks to panhandle, but when it's aggressive panhandling, can't you change some of the laws to say that's not going to be allowed to be so aggressive for folks? Because it's not a matter of just saying, hey, do you have any money? It's a continual harassment of folks until they either give them the money just to get rid of them because they don't feel safe. So it seems like aggressive panhandling should not be allowed. And I get that folks have the right to panhandle, but I think aggressive panhandling is different.
Thank you. That was 2 minutes, sir. Chief or Michelle, anything to add?
You want to answer the repeat part?
Sure. So, I think for the repeat offenders, there's a couple potential answers to that problem. One that I hear a lot of complaints about, not just in Berry City, but County, and really my colleagues across the state hear this too. For most level of the crime that we're talking about here are going to fall into, unlawful trespasses, disorderly conduct, maybe an unlawful mischief. So those level of crimes, which are misdemeanor crimes, those types of cases, cash bail isn't going to be imposed. So they will get a citation, they will come to court, they will have their arraignment, and majority of the time they will be released because cash bail, telling them that you have to pay a certain amount of money to stay out of jail, is only available when somebody is a risk of flight. So preventative detention of, I would want to put you in jail so that you don't have the opportunity to commit the crime tomorrow, is not constitutional. Preventative detention isn't constitutional, so it's not available. And cash bail, when you're talking about risk of flight, a lot of these repeat offenders are living in our community, they are close by, they are not leaving. And so the idea of putting cash, so there's not an argument or a legal way to detain them on cash bail because they're not a flight risk. So that is the legal reason why you're seeing that, and I hear that frustration, that it feels very frustrating. And also, if someone commits a crime on Monday and is issued a citation, that citation might be out for a couple of weeks even, so those conditions of release won't even be imposed for a couple of weeks. So that there's time where they might commit other offenses even before they're arraigned, and then potentially after arraignment. But that's the legal and statutory framework there, is that cash bail for a misdemeanor is only available in those circumstances to prevent risk of flight. And for most misdemeanors, there's a $200 cap on cash bail for most of the types of crimes that we're talking about here. The kind of public safety exception to that are for felony crimes of violence, where it is a felony and one of the elements is an act of violence towards another person. That person could be held without bail, where no amount of money could get them out of jail because a judge has agreed that they are a public safety risk. And then the other category is if they've committed an offense where the potential punishment includes life in prison, and so those are going to be your murders, your sexual assaults, your kidnapping. So it's the preventative style detention is very limited by law.
Thank you, Michelle. And we're gonna go to this gentleman here.
There was another part to the question that I think is important, and that has to do with panhandling versus aggressive panhandling, and when it crosses the line.
And sir, to answer or to make a comment regarding your aggressive panhandling, I 100% agree. While it's okay to panhandle, you see individuals that stand, for instance, comes to mind the Market 32, the Price Chopper, where they stand out there with a sign. They're not bothering anybody. That's different. The individuals that are approaching people and aggressively panhandling, I think there should be a law, or they should at least change the constitutionality of that to address that. And that's, I don't specifically know where our legislative delegation is. I see Mr. Booten here. But these are things that we need to bring to light to our legislature to make laws regarding that.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor. This gentleman, and then I'll go to a couple folks online after this gentleman.
All right, good evening. My name is Mark Audi, and my question is for you, sir. For many of these repeat offenders, if you will, if they really don't give a lot of thought or care to abide by the current laws, rules and regulations, or ordinances that are already on the books, what makes us or leads us to believe that the current proposed ordinance is going to be any different than any of the others? Because if we don't take a holistic approach to this, and that's shelter, food, medical, and care for these folks, then we're simply not gonna get the answers that we really need to be safe in the community. And that takes a lot for a Marine to say. I'm gonna say this, 20 years ago, I'd have been like, put them in jail. That doesn't work. We know that doesn't work, so we have to have a more holistic approach to this. But I really wanna know what you think about the ordinance and why that might be different than any of the other, laws, rules, and regulations that are
Thank you
already
for the
on the
question. I think what was really striking when we were researching what was happening in Brattleboro, following what was happening in Brattleboro, has been alluded to a couple times tonight, that the laws on the books don't address a lot of these nuisance crimes, right? And that do lead people to feel unsafe or cause complaints to happen, right? So for example, the panhandling, right? So one way that this proposed ordinance would address that is not allowing people to panhandle near an ATM, right? And so I think that's just one tangible example of how, the laws, the current laws don't address it. I think that this isn't an ordinance to make Berry City rich, right? There's fines included in this. The chief and I are under no, impression that we're gonna make money off of this, and we're not about locking people up. I think a lot of this also is about moving people along, right? If they are engaging in some of those behaviors that were outlined in the Brattleboro ordinance, that gives our police officers who right now don't have those tools the ability to move somebody along who is aggressively panhandling and intimidating this gentleman's customers, right? So that's just one reason. Again, it may or may not be the right approach for Barry, but from our perspective, it was a tool to address some of the things that we hear and we see in the data when we look at these issues.
All right.
Thank you for your
Thank you
question.
very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's go to looks like Jeremy Spiro-Wynn was next, and Herb, I see you. I'll get you here in a little bit.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Jeremy Sparwin here, Berry City resident. I just had a comment about the sort of the nature and efficacy of the ordinance. I'm looking at the proposal here right now, and actually my conclusion about the previous gentleman. I'm not sure how effective this tool will be, given that it seems to slap an additional fine on a number of things that are already illegal, right? Sexual or lewd behavior, threats of physical harm, vandalizing city property, profane, threatening behavior, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that are, as far as I'm aware, already illegal within the city of Berry. So it's a little unclear to me how applying an additional fine to it is. I'm a little unsure, certain where the banning of panhandling comes in, because I'm not seeing that in any of the language here. I'm not sure if that's covered by something else. I will also say it feels a little arbitrary to place a boundary around what seems to be, in addition to ATM, things like parking meters and vending machines. I'd be really curious to know how much of Berry City would end up being covered by this, what seems to be like a largely redundant ordinance. And I'm also a little bit concerned as well about Class C, failing to abide by city rules or reasonable directions of city staff related to rules/policy, or leaving personal items unattended. That seems extremely vague to a sense that it's really concerning. Like that really sounds like you're essentially saying city staff can ask somebody to leave for whatever reason they decide to, and that sounds concerning. So I'm really just not sure how this is supposed to have much of an impact at all. And it again strikes me that a lot of what's being prohibited here is really already prohibited. So,
Thank you for the comments. We have Mr. Bruger, John Bruger online, and then it looks like, Bob, would you like to speak? Okay, you next. Thank you. John Bruger from Zoom.
Yeah, John Bruger here on Zoom. So I guess I want to ask, sort of, make one comment, ask a question. So counterpoint to Jeremy, I feel like an ordinance like this would be worth pursuing. We have to start somewhere. And starting with conversation between our law enforcement officers and aggressive people that says you can't do this, it's against the law, and I'm going to write you a ticket for $200, would go a long ways to limiting some of this. I think think word would quickly get around that we have this ordinance in place. So I guess my first question is, what would it take to bring this ordinance forward, you know, in terms of the timing and everything? And then my second question is what happens when we start to see repeat offenders under this ordinance? When does that come up to more serious, you know, judicial activities?
Thank you, John. So just strictly speaking on the process side of it, so any ordinance would come to the city council for 2 readings. That means the city council at 2 separate meetings has to consider the language, take comments from the public, and then the council would vote on that. And each council would have their own vote. It takes 4 votes to enact it. And then if it is passed on 2 readings, it would become effective either at a date set by the city council or 14 days after it's published in the Times Argus. You know, I think in terms of the repeat offenders, and I don't know if the chief or Michelle have anything to add to this. I think for us, one of the things that could lead to would be a no trespass on public property, which is it's a big change. But that's one of the difficult conversations that this ordinance and these issues have brought about, which is that it may be time, right, to balance the needs of the people who are committing these nuisance complaints and actions versus the needs of the 8,000 other people who live here, right? And so if that requires a no trespassing from a public area, maybe that's necessary. And that's the discussion this ordinance is supposed to bring about. I don't know if there's Chief or Michelle, if you have anything to add. Floor is yours. If you'd like.
The one thing I wanna make clear is that if somebody commits a crime, they're gonna be arrested for the crime. So, like, forgive me, I don't know the gentleman's name that brought this up, talked about sexual assaults and other things. We're not looking to slap an ordinance fine on somebody that commits a sexual assault or commits simple assault. Those folks are gonna get arrested. So there's a criminal aspect here that's beyond this ordinance. The ordinance is specifically to deal with those issues where our hands are tied because they don't meet rise to the level of the criminal intent of the statute. And that's problematic when we're dealing with these repeat individuals. As you can see from the data, we deal with these folks like 70 and 80 times in a year, and we can't do anything with it because they haven't committed a crime, so to speak. Once they cross that line, we do charge them with that.
Thanks, Chief.
So, if you want to add anything.
I think that was a pretty complete response.
Thank you. Thank you both. Bob, and then we'll go. Herb, did you have your hands up online, Herb? I thought I saw you wanted to speak. Okay. Bob, Herb, and then looks like I saw a hand over here. Yes. Both of you.
I'm Bob Nelson. My wife and I own property in the downtown. We have 14 apartments, and we own a retail space. And to the question about the ordinance and how it might affect us, and some of the frustration here, and I had this conversation with the state's attorney a week ago. In this case, these people are able to come, be right behind my business, harass the people that are coming into our store, harass my tenants as they're coming and going from their homes with no consequences. Okay? The ordinance at least makes them pay a fine. There is some consequence. Because right now, they're turning people away from downtown Barrie, they're turning people away from Nelson Hardware, because people don't want to come down here anymore. Okay? Particularly late afternoon or early morning. Now, this is something, and we discussed this a little bit last week. I had a question. If you have a pile of misdemeanors, can't that somehow, at some point, equal a felony so that there's some teeth or something? There's got to be some way. If someone there's 900, 8 people, they had 900 between this community and the surrounding communities. 900 touches by law enforcement. Something's got to be able to give so that whether they get the help that they need or they're incarcerated, there's got to be something there.
So the legislature last session did pass a statute where repeat offenses for retail theft can become a felony. That is one of the circumstances where a few, like after a certain point, subsequent offenses can become a felony. battery, disorderly conducts then equal an aggravated assault, though. So for some types of crimes, yes, there are increasing penalties and increasing level of severity if they have been convicted of those other crimes before. We call those predicate offenses, and that can increase the severity of the response. But not all crimes have that kind of stacking level of severity.
So it's a policy issue. Policy issue. Thank you.
Thank you,
My
Bob.
2 minutes, thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You didn't have your hand icon up, but I thought I saw you raise your hand. Did you want to take your 2 minutes? Yes, please. Go ahead, Herb. You got on mute though. There you go.
There you
We
go.
got you.
Can you hear?
We got
Can you
you.
hear me now?
You sure can.
Okay, good.
2 minutes starting.
My name is Herbert Heath, and I have 34 apartments there in the city of Barry. And I'd like to talk about the loitering law. Now, the thing is that I spent 4 years in the United States Air Force, and so when we were in training schools, we were always adjacent to towns and cities. And so when us GIs wanted to get off base on the weekend, we'd go downtown and we'd love to loiter around down there. But all the bases I have spent any time on, they had a loitering law. And what that meant was you're not allowed to go down the street and hang around. And so you could get down, what we could do, they'd allow us, you had to keep walking. Now you could go walk off, so what we do is come off base, walk all the way down to the other end of town, and walk all the way back to the base, and that'd be the end of it. And so I'm wondering about the city's loitering law, because you see, if you're gonna panhandle or do anything else, you've gotta be hanging around downtown. Now, if you had a loitering law, that means you can't hang around. So since you can't hang around, it doesn't seem that you'd be able to do a lot of deviltry to your people there on the downtown. And so I'm gonna end there.
Thank you, Herb. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I guess the question is the loitering. Let's talk about loitering.
Talk about the Constitution. Would you like to talk about the Constitution, Michelle? Okay.
I mean, we could just prosecute people though. I mean, it's not that simple to say it's against the Constitution to hold people accountable for action.
So, hold on.
If the police officer has 700
Sorry,
people.
sir. You already had your chance. I saw
Oh,
other
okay.
hands.
Yeah, we'll just let other people say stuff and we can.
I saw a hand up over here. Did I, or anybody else? Yes, please. And I see your hand up in the back.
Yeah, do we just get 2 minutes for the whole thing, or
Yes.
2 minutes at a time?
2 minutes for the whole thing. Unless no one else wants to speak, and then you get a second.
All right.
2 minutes.
All right, my name is Caitlin Burnham. I have a question. I would like you guys to define what aggressive panhandling is. I keep hearing that a lot. I have never experienced it. I would love to have a clear definition of that. Also, what constitutes as police contact? Like, what is the clear definition of that? It could be just, talking to somebody, or what? I have no idea. And also, my comment is I find it interesting that we as a society are choosing to spend money to incarcerate people instead of housing people. There we go. All right.
Want to grab that one?
So for aggressive panhandling, when people approach people and ask them for money, what we're finding out is that when they say no, they start calling them names, they start belittling them, they basically intimidate them.
So name calling and taunting would be your definition for
That's
aggressive panhandling?
yes, that's part of it. Once you're invading somebody's personal space and you're harassing them and asking them for money, and then if you politely say, no, I don't have any, they don't end the contact there, they continue harassing that individual. And regarding police contacts, we have a records management system. Anytime your name appears in that records management system for having a contact with police, that, like for instance, if we get called down for a disturbance down on a city street, and we go there and you're involved in that disturbance, you get entered into the records management system.
So just any conversation with a police officer?
Yes, any contact. And that's, we're not saying these are, like, for instance, when you look at the stats, somebody has, say, 30 contacts. That doesn't necessarily mean they're committing 30 incidents. They're just, that's an inordinate amount of contacts with an individual. They're always involved in something.
So would not more policing in itself cause more contacts with people?
It could technically, but if your behaviors are changed where you're not bringing attention to yourself, we don't randomly walk up and like discuss something with you and say, oh, you're being entered as a police contact. If we get called and you're there, there's a disturbance between 3 people, you're one of those 3 people, that's a police contact.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Nicholas, can I ask the Chief a follow-up question?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Chief, and don't worry, we didn't rehearse this, I'm really wondering this. I'm not a big guy, but there might be behavior that I don't find threatening. In other words, I can make them go away. And I don't fear for my safety, I don't fear that I'm gonna get hurt. But then there's a 90-year-old woman or a mom with her child in hand that may feel are there different levels? In other words, is there different behavior that would define what is aggressive or what is, is it person specific? And that's a sincere question, because behavior, if you have 2 young children by the hand, you might feel a little more vulnerable than if you don't.
Correct. It is subjective, and it's objectively reasonable too when you look at things. Circumstances could be different for different people. It's how you feel. If you feel intimidated, if the people are harassing you repeatedly and asking you for money instead of just saying, okay, no, thank you, I asked you for money, you said no, in the end of contact. That's not what's happening here. People are intimidating and harassing people trying to get money from them.
Thank you. Yes, Earl, please. Thank you.
Hi, Earl Cooper Camp. I'm the pastor of the Church of the Good Shepherd. Given 2 minutes to a preacher, I'm not so sure. But I'll stop. First of all, notice that more lighting on Merchants Row. In the church, this is the season of Epiphany, a season of light. That's a good one. I like that a lot. But also going on, one thing that the slideshow really showed, and I think we're all aware of, as the hotel program wound down and more people were out on the street and everything, then those kinds of numbers go up. And we saw that early on in the summer and through the fall. Some of the churches, other organizations in Barrie got together. The police responded very, very well. The city responded really well. It's gotten better. But I think overall we can see that law enforcement is part of the solution. Maybe an ordinance might do some of this. But as my Marine veteran said, this is not really the whole solution. We really have to look at what is it that we can do to become more welcoming. I mean, we see in the highest levels of our society on down a lack of civility. Law and ordinance will help remind us of that, but it's some of the ways we just have to have an open attitude, opening up our churches, opening up our other places of worship, our community organizations. That's making a difference, and the support that Nelson's Hardware and others have given has been really, really important. I think that's what's going to begin to change things. I know, I've done this long enough for about 100 years now. I know there's some knuckleheads out there, and unfortunately, we just have to continue to treat them like human beings, because that's who God made them to be, so that eventually they turn themselves around. I've seen that happen, and it's hard, it's frustrating, and I understand the frustration. But I think as we kind of work together with law enforcement, city government, all of us together, there it is. We can make it happen.
BF von Zoom, and you can be next, sir. BF from Zoom.
Hi, I'm Vicky Gilling, and I was wondering if, would you feel threatened by someone panhandling or just committing to your personal space? Besides, what's the legality of using pepper spray or potentially taser or something like that, your own personal thing? I'm just curious.
Chief?
So hopefully people aren't carrying tasers and tasing people. But you're threatened and you feel, that you're gonna suffer some bodily harm or whatnot, you can certainly, use your pepper spray. If you wanna add anything to that, as far as,
And the legal application of self-defense, though, is that it has to be reasonable and it has to be in proportion to the threat that you're facing. And so if you feel threatened because somebody is talking to you and you want them to step away and then you pepper spray them, that might not be considered a reasonable application of self-defense. Like the self-defense has to be proportional to the threat that you yourself are facing. So I would urge a lot of self-reflection and restraint before relying on that. Certainly if you're being attacked, you can defend yourself, but there are limits to it, and wouldn't want to see you facing criminal charges in those instances. So I would urge restraint.
Perfect. Yes, sir, and Cassandra Bedell will go to you next online.
Hi, I'm Marty Cato, I'm a resident of Barry. Just quickly, as somebody who's done contract state security, including being supervisor of security for the State House complex here in Montpelier, I've also been a bodyguard. I've arrested people legally in the South as a contract security officer. Anyways, one of the first things I've discovered is that if you can talk to somebody and treat them with a little bit of respect, 99% of the time they will not cause a problem. But I have also found sometimes that doesn't work. I've been struck by alcohol inebriated people. I've been hit on by females that were definitely not in their right mind. But again, usually if I can talk to somebody and have a calm, clear conversation, it works. I was accosted by two people down at North End Cumberland Farms about a week and a half ago. It started with a woman. She was in the car with two men. I actually made the mistake of giving her a partial pack of cigarettes because I saw her leafing through the cigarettes in the ashtray. Gave her a partial pack of cigarettes, and when I came back out, she asked me for money, and when I told her I didn't carry cash, she said, oh, and she got into the car, which was rolling down the street, and one of the guys in the vehicle made some pretty bad comments. I'm not worried about myself, but I can guarantee that my ex-wife, all 4'9" of her, would have been very, very insecure. So I don't think that we need to necessarily arrest everybody that's panhandling. These people that are aggressively panhandling, hate the word, but it's reality. There has to be something. And that, another one, if I have a moment.
10 seconds.
Okay. You guys aren't the only people responsible for this city. Us as citizens are also responsible. I'm working right now to try to help you guys out. If I can, I'll be talking to Sergeant Ford. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Cassandra Bedell and Ellen, you next.
It's nice to see such a great turnout of the community here, so I want to say thank you for that. And I think we haven't really talked about the issue of addictive behavior and drug use in Barrie, and I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. I've been chased in my car at night. I've found needles, and the police have been very kind to come pick them up. But, maybe if somebody had to go to court for constantly doing these kinds of things, maybe they could see a screener at court. Maybe they could get into some treatment and get some help because, you talk about talking down a person when they're detoxing or drug seeking or high. They're not in the right mind to have that conversation. And honestly, it's unsafe. So treatment for people. And then, oh, and I also don't think that jail is a bad thing, because I worked in the women's jail for 10 years, and I cannot tell you how many people have come to me and said, going to jail saved my life, whether I worked as an officer or as a therapist in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Ellen, Amy online, and then
Natalie Matson. Natalie Matson.
Hi, Ellen Kay. I really am concerned about some of these terms that we don't define, like aggressive panhandling, like feeling threatened. Ask people in Black communities what police feeling threatened led to for their loved ones. And aggressive panhandling, what's the coin drop? What's the coin drop? I can't drive down the street on a Saturday morning without being harassed for money? No, I'm not gonna stop, it's my dime.
Yeah, keep driving.
So these are folks who are in their most desperate points of their lives. Would you be out there doing any of this behavior right now with your house, your roof over your heads, food on your tables, a steady job, a car that works, not a lot of warrants because you couldn't pay parking tickets, because you don't have the money? We're gonna fine these people? They don't have money. Many of them have. I would invite and challenge everyone in this room to go to Earl Cooper Camp's Church of the Good Shepherd, to go to any of those churches on the mornings that they are offering breakfast for anyone, and go sit down with folks and listen to them and talk to them and break bread and just, comment on the muffin that you're eating together. These are human beings. And criminalizing poverty is not the answer. It is an abdication of our responsibility as a community to take care of the most vulnerable people. The 8,000 are not the most vulnerable people. The people living on the streets, suffering from addiction, all of the situations that they're in, they are the most vulnerable people. And let's take care of them.
Amy, you're up.
Hi, I know this ordinance that's in your handout is not proposed language for Barry, it's kind of a summary of other ones. But Sam doesn't pay for the different classes of them. I think the class C one is just so vague, in terms of what's reasonable, that I think that would be kind of impossible to enforce or not as such a small fine, it would make much of a difference. Also, as someone who can be absent-minded and leave stuff behind, I don't know about leaving personal items unattended. I think I could pick myself up with that one, just being forgetful. I think it's the more serious things. I had an experience downtown where, I really didn't like that someone was walking me as I got out of my car and packed some things and got out my purse and that kind of thing and came up behind me and asked for money. That was kind of frustrating. And then even more so as I walked around running errands when they were with a group of other people and screaming obscenities at me from afar. So that, there's not free speech, but what was more threatening to me was the groups of people. So this is all, I think, individuals. I don't know if there's any aspect of it as far as group behavior. Just something to think about. And then also a lot of talk has been about repeat offenders, or it's the same people who are creating such a problem for the police and for certain property owners. So I don't, even with these things in this class A, class B, if someone commits one of these once in a blue moon, that's a very different issue than if it's happening day after day in the same place. So a lot of stuff has been about repeat occurrence, but I didn't see that with the ordinance discussion.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, please.
Okay. My name's Natalie Matson. I've lived in Berry City since I was 20 years old, and I'm now 23, and I've noticed a stark difference in the streets because I do like to skateboard and stuff. Can't do that anymore because sexual harassment that I get on the streets and financial harassment for money, as everyone's experiencing. I do not feel safe walking around like I used to at all, which is very disappointing. The fines that you're talking about putting in place for these people, they're not going to work because they're not going to pay them. what these people need. Like, at what point do we step in, like somebody said, and make it a felony, so they'll actually be able to listen and something will come from it. The other thing is do the transients are not considered a flight risk? Is my question. Like, why is that? Like, I feel like they should be considered a flight risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. I would just, thanks for your comments. Just one very quick point, on the enforcement side, like I said, we recognize, this is not a moneymaker for the city. This is not to make money. Really, and I've spoken to the people in Brattleboro who are involved in this ordinance as well, and one of the big impetus for this was to give the police officers a tool to move people along who were perhaps engaging in that threatening behavior or harassing behavior. It's not to go collect money, because we get it. I mean, people are desperate, but it's striking that balance, right, between them being desperate, but also you feeling safe enough to recreate on the streets, which is also impactful.
And I think it's good in theory. I just don't think that the repercussions are going to work for this group of people, because they're not going to pay the fines no matter what. So what is getting a fine to them?
Yeah, I think it's mostly about an officer coming and saying, please move along, this is, against ordinance or whatever the case may be, and hopefully over time it changes the behavior and it recedes. At least that's the theory behind some of it. And Chief and Michelle, I want to give you this, in case you want anything to add to that, give you the chance to. It's okay if you don't.
Anything to the flight risk issue?
So there are some people that are in the city that don't have ties here, that if they committed a crime could possibly be considered a flight risk, and that could be considered in the court imposing cash bail. But again, if they committed a misdemeanor, there is a statutory $200 cap on that amount of bail. And like transient and unhoused are two different things. There are people who are members of our community that are unhoused. That doesn't make them transient. Like they're members of our community. And I think that some of these the problems that we're talking about, we're looking for solutions here tonight. We're really looking to listen, and it's the state's attorney and chief of police who are up here along with the mayor and the city manager kind of fielding these questions. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like, the criminal justice system isn't going to be able to be the solution to all of these problems. Like, a lot of the problems that we're facing here are kind of a multifaceted, multi-systemic problem with poverty, with mental health, with substance use disorder, and with housing instability. And the criminal justice system, the police can't arrest their way out of that problem. The police can respond and they can help in that moment. And if a crime has been committed, the criminal justice system is responsive in nature. We are only reactive. We respond to that one moment in time, like on all of our information. It says, like, at the date, time, and place alleged. It's responding to that one pinpoint moment. Whereas the people that may be committing these crimes are facing situations that are affecting the whole of their lives. And asking the criminal justice system to solve, mental health issues that haven't been able to be solved elsewhere, or asking the criminal justice system to solve a substance use problem that hasn't been able to be solved elsewhere. Like, it's not going to be able to be that solution. And because resources need to come from all of these other places as well. It can't just be like, well, the police came, they issued them a citation, and now they'll go to court, and that will be done. Like, that is where we're going to see the same person again and again, because the criminal justice system can't possibly solve the problem that is multifaceted in that individual's life.
Thank you, Michelle. So I have Jennifer online. It looks like you want to speak as well. So we'll have Jennifer online, we'll have one in the room, and then we'll go to Brooke online. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jen. I live in Barrie. I've lived here since 2004, and I have 2 teenage daughters. And my husband and I, just recently, I just want to say, I guess, that just because people are afraid or nervous doesn't mean that they don't have empathy.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I'm a hairdresser at CV Hair Studio, which is in Sidewalk Village. And as a hairdresser, I never thought that I would see a dead body, and I saw my first dead body this past year. And I think that all these problems really do come back to drugs, and I do have empathy for people, but I think that also when we talk about these services, I'm friends with a lot of landlords, and when we can also look at the hotels that a lot of these people stay at, they are destroyed, they are disgusting, they're inhabitable, and these people have been given so many services, and I understand that people who are dead cannot, be revitalized or cannot be rehabilitated. I understand that, and I have sympathy for them. I would also like to say that the aggravating, or what is it called, the panhandling, aggressive panhandling, the instance that I have had, I work with 2 very pregnant women right now, and we had somebody come into our salon after I left and after a male client had left, and I don't know, I mean, you could maybe say that he robbed her. He would not leave, he cornered her until she would give him money, and the aggression part was that, hey, my mother's in the hospital, she's dying, you're a piece of shit if you don't give me money, and you better give me money right now or I'm not leaving. So what is this woman supposed to do? I mean, she's 7 months pregnant, she's cornered in her station, and she's alone. Like, I don't know what people expect us to do. I'm scared, I'm not gonna walk, home at night. I'm also a bartender, and I leave alone at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I have to have my husband drive down to walk me to my car because I've been chased. I've been followed several accounts to give me money, you're worthless, you're not gonna give me money. I have a girlfriend in the hospital, I have a wife in the hospital, my girlfriend's pregnant. I'm sorry, like, you chose drugs and I chose to work, and that's not my problem.
Which is only fancy for saying they're social worker. I've been in this position for at least like 9 years more. When I started, I bounced around Barry, and I was aware of like potential situations and whatnot, but I can honestly say, like, in the last 5 months, I've gone to Chief and been like, okay, I'm kind of worried about my safety. Could we do this or that? And I know I've definitely reached out to the officers and said, hey, I'm gonna go be here. If you don't hear from me in 20 minutes, can you come up and just check out and make sure everything is okay? So I definitely think things have changed in the way that the unhoused people or whatever have approached even service providers. I mean, and I think when we were talking about things left behind, I was thinking of like camping equipment and tents and stuff like that, because I know that myself and one of the other community partners like walk around Barry and like kind of try to check into people, on people, but also like when we're checking underneath bridges and stuff, there's tents abandoned and like lots of needles and whatnot. So like we'll pick that up and I'll take it back to the station. But I think it was more that, not just like, oh, someone left their keys or their wallet or a coat behind. I think it's the bigger, like, kind of camping things that are not just left for like an hour, but maybe days. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Yes, sir, you make your way to the microphone, and while you're doing that, I'm going to have Osa have 2 minutes. Osa?
Hi there all. My name is Osa Bush. I'm a resident of Berry City, and I'm also a street outreach worker working with the homeless population or the unhoused population in Washington County with the Samaritan Haven. I too have noticed the difference in feeling safe versus like even a few years ago versus now. There are a lot of circumstances that seem to be more unsafe or cause myself to feel more uneasy, especially being out at night and being out at like 3 or 4 in the morning and having folks come that I don't know yet a scenario and you see me on the street or something, that's mostly it. Thank you.
Thank you, Osa. And Osa, you left out your most important qualification, which is a member of our unhoused community, unhoused community committee. So thank you for that. Sir, and just a time check, we're at 6:45 and we're going to end promptly at 7. Can I get a nod from those if you'd like to, if you want to have a chance to make any remarks at the end, so I can save some time? Is that
I'm fine.
You're fine. So we'll use the time all the way up to 7. Sir, your 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Randy. I live in housing in Barry at the Manor. We constantly have a problem with repeat offenders who are not to be trespassing on the property. They'll come in, and especially in the wintertime, they're invited in. We have a problem with the tenants doing that. But they come in and we call the cops like we're told to by the housing authority. And sometimes the cops come, sometimes they don't. You know, and meanwhile, we have this person on property that shouldn't be there. Their face is posted downstairs in the lobby. We know, we identify, and we do what we're supposed to do. So I don't think there's enough being done there to help protect the vulnerable, the elderly, the handicapped, and the disabled. I think more needs to be done here. And I want to say something I think we've all been thinking, is that the laws seem to protect the repeat offenders more than it does the public.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Danielle, online for 2 minutes.
Amy, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I do have several points of feedback on the ordinance for Brattleboro, but 2 minutes isn't going to give me enough time to address those points, and the ordinance is long and the evening is short. So I'll try to focus on some larger contextual issues I see. I was able to quickly review some of the graphs you presented on increased quality of life complaints, increased EMS calls that are not categorized. We don't know what those calls were for. And it increased police contacts. I don't think any of those graphs necessarily completely identify that the problem is necessarily getting worse or what is getting worse about the problem. So I think being able to drill down into that data a little bit more could be helpful. I didn't see you present a problem statement at the beginning or how we would measure what success looks like. So I think it's really important that you have clearly specified goals that you can measure if something is successful. The only solution I see presented here is an ordinance. So I wonder what other avenues have been pursued outside of police enforcement. So I ask you to at least try to identify a couple other solutions for folks to consider. Are you intending to reach out to communities of people that are most likely to be impacted by the ordinance and folks who work with those communities? Have you considered reaching out to the Office of Racial Equity and their data analysts to help you look at efficacy of ordinances like these? Have they worked in the past? Are there better options available? Are you planning to utilize the City Council approved equity impact assessment to evaluate the ordinance? That's something that it was created for and the council agreed to do. And again, I really want you to think about how you're going to measure success and be able to sort of monitor that this is something you put into place. I also want to point out lastly that the ordinance is not going to fix any of these underlying issues that people have pointed out tonight. The ordinance is not going to fix the issue of addiction. It's not going to affect the issues with people who are in crises and can't get treatment or help, and it's not going to cure homelessness. So we need to have a bigger plan to make sure that the ordinance doesn't result in a creation of worse issues. Thanks.
Yes.
My name is Brenda Dufresne-Benda, and I've lived in Barrie since 2000, but I was born and raised in Montpelier. And Barrie, Montpelier were always rivals long ago, so yes, living in Barrie has been an experience. And I see the crime getting worse, people breaking into houses now. I get a pop-up on my Facebook about who's a mile and a half from my house, somebody is involved in some kind of illegal adventure. And I totally think that we're missing the boat here. This is mostly about drugs. And there is just not enough facilities that is going to take care of the mental health crisis or take care of our addictive people. My son was an addict. He grew up here in Barrie, and he's now 10 years clean, thank God. But we went to a facility in Bradford, and it was a joke. There's no after plan when he comes out of that facility, so there was nothing to keep him going. He was involved in Washington County mental health, taking care of patients, and a lot of those people taking care of these clients are involved in drugs. That's how he got started. So I just don't know. The housing is a problem. We have empty houses and buildings in Barry. Why are those not getting renovated and maybe making housing for these people? Healthcare, you're going to have to talk with legislators and your senators because nothing's going to change unless you get people in Montpelier making the decision that mental health and addiction is a priority in this state.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Judy, and I'm a lifelong resident of Berry City. And I'm not a public speaker, but I've been, I won't say I'm a victim, but I've been approached by these people more than once. And I'll tell you, I shake for hours afterwards. One day I came out of TD Bank, went to get in my car, and that woman came up next to my car, right next to my mirror, right in my window. Luckily I could lock my door, and she's asking me for money, and I said, no, go away. And when I went to look in my rear view mirror, I couldn't see my side mirror because she was blocking it. Carlos was behind my car, standing by the taillight, so I could not leave. And then a couple weeks ago, I work for Emsley's a couple days a week. I'm retired, and I help them out with delivering flowers. I'm out filling the car with flowers, and this guy comes up the alleyway. Man, he has money in his hand, but yet he's asking me for more money. And it was the other guy. Just now, within the hour, we had another incident, and it happened to be at Emsley's. Kate Forsell said she works downtown and wanted to give everyone a heads up that there's a couple who are currently going door to door North Main Street asking for money. This is not the couple that were involved in the altercations behind Subway a few weeks ago, but still pretty brazen of them to walk into a place of business and ask for money from the employees. If you wish to avoid him, the man is wearing a black and red buffalo plaid coat, and the woman is wearing black coat and tan pants. Now, when I went home and told my kids that this had happened, my daughter said, you got to give up your job. Well, I'm not going to. I'm going to work around these things. I worked for HB Good for 24 years. I worked in North Avenue and on Shelburne Road and Heinsberg Road. But before I get kicked off, so now if I'm going to deliver flowers, I have to drive the car into the front of Main Street. I'm no longer told that. I told my kids are not allowing me to work out back at all. In the summertime, it's not so bad because a lot of the residents are there and I've become friends with them. But and to openly see drug dealing going on in that back parking lot is just out of hand. I haven't seen it for a couple weeks. That car with all the junk on it seems to have disappeared, but that's where all the activity was happening.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Counselor?
So I just want to put my dad cap on as a father of four in our community. We see drugs constantly. Drugs in, drugs out. We see drug dealers constantly being arrested and released. And I'd like to know what we're going to continue to do, or what we can do to make these drug dealers go away. I mean, I live at Green Acres at Barry Housing. I know that, Hillary might even talk about this as well as a tenant services manager. But we have tenants that are constantly running drugs. We have people that live there, they get busted for drugs, and then they don't have to move out because of the eviction process. There are drugs that are constantly flowing into our community. And I want to know how we, as a community, can get them gone. As an addict of being clean for 11 years, for me, if it wasn't around, I wouldn't use it. If the cost was so much, couldn't afford to use it. But some people at this point, they can't get drugs because they can't get a job. They're at that point. So we do need some services. We do need some help because we've seen a lot of our services in our community close over the last 6 months to a year. We've seen a lot of our spoken hub model things falling apart, and the people that are the most vulnerable, that need our help, they're falling apart too. So I'd like some answers on how we can possibly get some better repercussions for these repeat drug dealers, specifically those that live in public housing authorities that are getting a subsidy on rent. They're allowing these individuals to live in their homes, and we're not prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law.
Amen.
If anyone wants to address it, otherwise we'll go to work.
Talking about prosecution.
So, the drug dealing crimes and drug dealing, especially from residences, is being prosecuted. It's being prosecuted aggressively, but there is also an attempt to balance the response to someone who is using drugs versus somebody who is dealing and selling drugs and bringing them into our community, and the level of punishment of trying to, and the level of accountability and the level of response, trying to tailor that to what that person is going to need. We want to make it so it is unattractive to deal drugs in the city, and I think that state police has been doing a really good job of keeping an eye on things, about bringing cases bringing really solid cases forward for the prosecution to go after, to try to especially get those who are bringing them into our community. There is, and then there is those in our community who are being used by people higher up the chain to use their substance use disorder against them, to use it as leverage to get into their apartment, to get into their home, to use it as a place of operations, and keeping I'm trying to respond to that as well, to make it so that that's an unattractive bargain for those individuals, but finding the right response. It's someone who's in the throes of an addiction, who is suffering from substance use disorder, isn't necessarily going to have the forward thinking that other citizens might have of, I'm not going to do this action because I might get this response, because it might be much closer in time thinking of, I need to get drugs in the next hour or I'm going to be sick. And so they're not thinking about what the consequence of tomorrow or 2 weeks from now or 6 months down the road might be for them. And so when you're trying to work with human behavior and you're trying to think about incentivizing and decentivizing and punishment, it's really difficult when you're working with somebody who isn't thinking cause and effect, action consequence, like all of you are thinking, so it's a difficult problem to prosecute your way out of, but it is, the drug crime is something that's taken very seriously by me and my office, and we go after those cases aggressively, and the police go after those cases aggressively, and bring really solid cases forward to prosecute.
Thank you, Michelle. I think we have, these are the last two speakers, so we'll wrap up after Kristen, so you want to start?
Hi, my name's Hillary, and I work for Berry Housing Authority, and I wanted to start on evictions, because we all know how it is to try to evict somebody from a unit. It's not very easy. But I have to say, the thing that I'm really concerned about is the people, and the police, Berry City Police, they're so helpful to us. I just have to say thank you, everybody. The problem that I'm really having is that we have people that come, some of the aggressive panhandlers that our elderly folks are trying to get into the building of North Berry Manor. The door has to stay open a certain period of time so that a wheelchair or walker can get in, or they get closed in the door. and then these people slide right in behind them. And then they just have free range of our buildings. They sleep in our laundry rooms, they do drugs in our laundry rooms, they go into very vulnerable people's apartments and steal their debit cards, they threaten them, they scare them, and so that's a huge problem. And then we do no trespass orders, I put them in my home, and I bring them to the police department afterwards, and I usually give them to the person, I find them, I give them to them. But the problem is that if you are there to visit somebody, you're allowed to come into our building and go to their apartment, but you can't. But then on the way down, when you leave, you might just go in the bathroom and use some drugs, or smoke cigarettes in the bathroom, or steal from our community room. So is there anything that we can do about that to protect our elderly disabled people? I mean, it's really. I think I have 8 pictures in North Grand Manor on the bulletin board of people that are not allowed in their buildings, but they are allowed to cross the threshold, come into our building, usually illegally because it's a locked, secure building, and go up to where they want to go. And that person often, someone isn't thinking, doesn't look at the people, opens the door, and there you are. So,
Thank you, Gloria.
just to think about that. Thank you.
Kristen will be our last speaker.
Jeepers, I wish I had something brilliant to say. I'm Kristen. I'm the director of the Aldrich Public Library. That's right. I also want to thank the officers and the chief and Brooke and OSA and Tess Taylor and all the ministry in the room. We've done some great coalition building in this town, and we're working for you. We're working for everybody in this town, and we take that seriously. So I just want to say I'm in the room, I'm listening. I'm available if anyone does have something brilliant to say or do or a program to offer. We are open to that. That is what our role is in this town, is to move everyone forward through this time, as horrific as it is. We're in this together, right? When we leave the library, we all walk out together. We make sure all the cars start, and we make sure everybody leaves. Do I want to work in a town that I have to behave like that? Not really, but it's the job I picked. It's the town I work in, and it's the work I do, right? We keep our bushes trimmed so that people can't live behind them. I'm constantly picking up garbage in the library, outside the library. So I feel it, I hear it, I'm a part of it. But again, what I want to say is, let's do this together. Let's have some sort of training at the library. Libraries across the country have training on homelessness. Across the country, this is not specific to the Aldrich. This is not specific to Berry City, right? There is help out there that we can access, that we can utilize, that we can start to work with each other on, to get some training on, and to move forward. And so we're here for you. We're here for everybody. As you heard tonight, people that are on the street are our brothers, our sons, our neighbors, right? They're us. They're not an other out there, right? They're us. And somewhere along the line, they didn't get what they needed, right? 2 years ago, I sent my father down to New Jersey to pick my brother up off the street. I now house him, right? I got him off of drugs, right? I didn't do that, but I helped. So anyway, they're not another. They're all of us. They're our family and our friends, and the library is here for everyone, and thank you for the last